Ahoy, me hearties! Captain Trevor here, and welcome to another Top 5 video.
But in all seriousness, let's talk about pirates. Now, pirates are a group of people who like to sail the seven seas while stealing things like treasure and would often raid other ships to get that loot. In fact, the age of piracy has been around since the ancient times. Now, believe it or not, there are still pirates today, but they don't look like the ones we know in the past. But that's not the subject of today's video. I'm here to talk about my top 5 pirates in fiction. For this list, I'm only going to pick one of each different pirate character from each different franchise. Now without further ado, let's set sail in this epic top 5 video. Number 5, Seagoing Sam. Let me ask you guys this. Does this count? And to that I say, yes. Seagoing Sam is actually Yosemite Sam in a pirate costume. He sometimes dresses as a pirate in some Looney Tunes shorts, such as Buccaneer Bunny. In fact, I consider him one of my absolute favorite Looney Tunes antagonists of all time, and I'll eventually make a video about that someday, just not now. Not to mention that he's very funny too, especially when he gets angry at Bugs Bunny. While the real Yosemite Sam is a cowboy and an outlaw, but I think it's kind of refreshing to have him be portrayed as a pirate sometimes because it's always nice to reuse classic characters that they've already got in the franchise instead of introducing new ones. Heck, there was a time where he plays as a Black Knight in 99 Bugs. Number 4, Mr. Krabs. In SpongeBob SquarePants, Mr. Krabs is SpongeBob's and Squidward's employer and a complete cheapskate. Not only that, but he sometimes acts as an antagonist in the show, like in Krabbyland, where he tricks SpongeBob and the kids about his unfinished theme park and him pretending to be Krabby the Clown. Thankfully, he gets what he deserved in the end by getting beat up by the kids and was forced to eat green beans while tied up. But that's just one good example. The reason he's number 4 is because there were times where I despised the character. For instance, in One Course Meal, he harasses Plankton by disguising himself as his own daughter, Pearl, which eventually leads Plankton to try to commit suicide by lying on the road waiting for the bus to come. That is sick. What's worse is that Mr. Krabs never got punished in the end. But he's not all bad, though. There were times where he was kind to SpongeBob and Squidward, like at the end of Patrick's Staycation where he let SpongeBob sleep on his bed, or hammock I should say. Number 3, Captain Hook. Captain Hook is the main antagonist in Peter Pan. He lost his left hand to the crocodile a long time ago, and has a burning hatred towards Peter Pan. Captain Hook is a pretty good villain, whether in the Disney version, the original book, or in other non-Disney adaptations. He's also pretty funny too, especially when he gets chased by the crocodile. If I had to pick my favorite adaptation of Peter Pan, it would be the 1991 film Hook by Steven Spielberg. The reason this is my favorite Peter Pan film is because not only it's funnier and more mature than the Disney version, but I enjoyed the castings of Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, and Bob Hoskins as their respective characters. While the film may have some troubled history from what I've heard, but it will always have a special place in my heart, unlike Pan, which I consider the worst of the Peter Pan adaptations. Lastly, I really hope Disney cancels the live-action remake of Peter Pan because we already have one in existence, which is the 2003 film. Number 2, Captain Jack Sparrow. I don't know about you guys, but I find the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise a guilty pleasure of mine, no pun intended. I love the action, the dark atmosphere, some of the characters, and even some of the humor like with Captain Jack Sparrow and his Jar of Dirt song. Captain Jack Sparrow is my favorite character in the franchise because, well, he's the main character, and he's also pretty funny too. I'm also very surprised when I first saw the Pirates of the Caribbean world in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I somehow knew that it would return in Kingdom Hearts 3, but with better graphics. Now, the weakest Pirates movie, in my personal opinion, would have to be the 4th one because it doesn't really connect to the 5th movie very well. It's also kind of confusing, and it doesn't have that much originality. In addition, it's kind of mean-spirited too. For example, Jack kills Blackbeard intentionally by giving him the wrong cup, and later, Jack leaves Angelica on a tiny deserted island despite still loving her anyways. What a jerk. However, the only things I like about this movie are the acting, visuals, and the mermaid transformation in the middle of it all. But everything else about this movie isn't that very good. But hey, I don't want to hate on it too much because it is a Pirates movie after all. And as I said before, Pirates of the Caribbean is one of my guilty pleasures. At least the fifth movie is a slight improvement over the fourth, but not as good as the first three because the first three were all connected to each other, and they had much better plots and character developments than their successors. The fourth and fifth movies are basically standalone films, which I don't mind, but they still need some work. Before I get to my number one pick, here are some honorable mentions. Sinbad. I thought I'd mention this character because as much as I enjoyed the Sinbad film by DreamWorks, the only problem I have with this film is that the setting was changed to Greece rather than an Arabian one. Yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons why this movie failed. Sailor John. He would have been number one. Captain Stubbs. When Allie and I were kids, we would play the Fisher-Price pirate ship game on the computer all the time, and it was a lot of fun. But the reason Captain Stubbs didn't make it on this list is because he's too obscure and not very well known, and I only want to include pirate characters that most people know about. Sea Rogue. He's not really a pirate, what else can I say? I mean, he may look like one, but he's not. And my number one most favorite pirate character of all time is Salty the Dockyard Diesel. If there's one thing I regret not putting in my top 5 diesel engines video, it would have to be Salty from Thomas and Friends. What I love about Salty is that he's very likable and relatable. I love hearing his wonderful stories. For instance, in No Sleep for Cranky, he told a story to Bill and Ben about an old tramp steamer and how it ran aground, even though it's technically stock footage from Cranky Bugs. But he doesn't always tell stories of the sea. There was a time where he told a story about a young Sir Topham Hatt when he was in an open carriage on his birthday, and said that it's even older than Edward. I also would like to mention that he can be pretty funny too sometimes, especially the fact that Keith Wickham does a perfect job with his voice. No offense to Alec Baldwin, I just think Keith Wickham does a much better job with his voice because not only it sounds piratey, but also friendly and a bit comedic too. If I made a top 6 diesel engines video instead of 5, I would have put Salty between Dieselton and Paxton, in other words, number 2. Do you agree with my list? Tell me in the comment section below on which pirate characters are your favorite. And join me in next time where I'll be discussing my top 5 Scottish characters in fiction. This is Trevor Davis, signing off.